My guests today are Mike and Robin Gordon, and their story is so intriguing. At about the age of 40, they found themselves married with two boys in high school, that big house with a swimming pool, a dog, and, of course, a requisite minivan. Well, all of that together propelled them to pack their bags and head to Nepal and northern Pakistan. 25 years later, they have spent their life in the most satisfying way they can imagine for their entire family, but also so impactful for the people of northern Pakistan. Because as founders of an organization called Shining Light International, Mike and Robin do a number of things to empower the men, women, and children of northern Pakistan by building schools and providing them with skills and housing and soon medical care. And most of all, they provide them with community, dignity, and hope for a better future. They have never looked back or questioned their mission, even in the most challenging situations, and they have had plenty of challenging situations. So please, if you would, press that subscribe button on whatever platform you find yourself and enjoy the very good company of Mike and Robin Gordon. Hello, Robin and Mike Gordon. How are you?
Good morning. Great.
Really glad you both joined me. I know you, I don't know how far away from each other you are. I think you're probably about 20 yards or something, right? I don't even know.
About that,
Yes.
yeah.
Good guess.
Yeah.
Well, I made them separate so that we could get two individual recordings. It works better. So, but why don't we start by telling us all where you are at the moment, generally speaking.
Well, we're actually camping,
Yeah.
and we're in Colorado. We're camping at Taylor Reservoir, which is between Gunnison and Buena Vista. It's a beautiful location, and we've been enjoying ourselves. So, yeah.
Well, all right. So this is so you've been working for Shining Light, or with, I shouldn't say for. I don't know exactly what the layout is. Maybe. Well, first of all, you're in the mountain, not right now, but you've been living in the mountains of northern Pakistan, for a number of years. I think you said for 9 years until 9/11, which we'll get into that conversation a little bit. And is this in the disputed Kashmir region where you are, where they're located?
Yes, it was formerly known as the northern areas of Pakistan. It is the disputed territory, and now the province is now known as Gilgit-Baltistan.
So, but Kashmir is still disputed, right? And we've got Pakistan and they're with India fighting over it, and China and India are fighting over it.
Yeah.
Why? Why is it so valuable? Why does everyone want it? Nobody knows.
Well, that's a good question. It's that area location of the world is actually the headwaters of the Indus River, and so it's also disputed with China. There's a portion of India that's also in dispute with China. So it's always been it's the oldest unresolved dispute in the UN since 1947 is the Kashmir issue.
Wow.
And of course it's also political, religious. Pakistan claims it because it's Muslim. India claims it as their own, and so it's been in dispute. It's the biggest issue between Pakistan and India. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's the same year that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict started. So I'd say they're probably tied for the 1947. A lot of things were happening in the world in the 40s and breaking and moving, and we're still suffering from it.
Right.
Well, I know the pictures that you sent of Pakistan are spectacular. So it's a gorgeous region too. I mean, those mountains, they look more impressive than the Alps and the Rockies.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but
they are very impressive.
They were amazing.
Yeah, there are 125 peaks over 21,000 feet, so it's pretty impressive.
Over 21,000, yeah. So it's a huge climbing area too.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, let's talk about Shining Light a little bit. Can one of you just start with what the mission of the organization actually is, like why it was started, and what the what you do, what the purpose of it is today. Just sort of a big question, but
So
go ahead.
Either one.
All right. So we started Shining Light over 20 years ago. We're the founders of Shining Light, co-founders, I should say, with our Pakistani partners. Really, it's because of our faith. We are followers of Jesus, and in our faith, the main command is to love God and love others. And so we were basically compelled to love the people of northern Pakistan. And, it's a long story on how that happened. But in the end, our primary mission is to demonstrate the love of Jesus to the people of northern Pakistan. And we do that through education. We do that through empowering women. We do that through community development projects, and also providing disaster relief, like this recent flood, and just many other ways of just providing, meeting people's needs where they're at in the different villages and so on. So that's our tagline, if you will, is to hope for a brighter future, and we believe that that's one of the biggest themes that we provide is hope, and so that people know that they're valued and they're encouraged by our help. I guess
it keeps the hope alive.
Yes,
and hope is such a powerful. It's so interesting, the number of almost every guest I think that I've had on here that has anything that they do, especially with international relations or environmental, like there's many issues we're dealing with in the world. Hope always seems to be the topic that comes up no matter what, because as soon as you don't have hope, you quit trying. Nobody's excited about doing things, but so it's hope in action, I guess, is how you would describe what you're doing. Right. Because you can't just hope, you got to act also, which you clearly are doing.
That's right.
But really, I'm still curious, why Pakistan? Like, how did you find it? Was it a mission trip or traveling or?
Yeah. Well, we did.
Message came to you.
We did take a trip there in 1998. We went on a trip to Nepal and Pakistan, and we had two sons, and they also went with us. They were young teenagers, and in our travels, when we got to northern Pakistan, there was just something that resonated in our hearts that said, I think we could live here. Yeah.
That's
at the time we
amazing.
didn't know, we didn't know what all that entailed, but, it just seemed like a possibility. Yeah. Yeah.
And that you all felt that way is very interesting. So your boys were teenagers, and you all, as a family, like the four of you, said, "Let's pack up." Where were you living? Colorado before that?
Yes.
Where were you? Yeah.
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
And they were teenagers.
Yes, they were. When we actually finally moved, it was 2001. We got to Pakistan in August of 2001, which, it takes quite an effort to move. And then 5 weeks later was September 11th. And so we had to leave. Yeah. And so we came back to Colorado for a year.
5 weeks later. Oh, that was in 2001. For some reason, I'm thinking 2011. Yes, you're right. Okay, so 5 weeks later.
Yes.
So you had to leave, and then you went back?
We did.
Well,
Came back to Colorado for. We were back for a year, and then we went back to Pakistan, and it was actually harder to go back than in 2002 because terrorism had stepped up, and a lot of things had changed in the world since September 11th, and we moved to Islamabad in 2002, and then up to northern Pakistan in the spring of 2003. Yeah. But
That's quite remarkable
we
timing.
never felt the most common. Yeah, the most commonly asked question is, "Were you ever afraid?" And really, I have to say that we were never afraid of the people. Never. There are a lot of other things like the way people drive and the roads, the poor condition that are scary, but we never were afraid of the people. Yeah.
Interesting, because as people will remember, that's where Osama bin Laden was actually found, was in the northern mountains of Pakistan. So I don't know if you knew, and well, you didn't know, no one knew, but but certainly that area is the center of a lot of terrorist groups and so forth, right? But you've not had any experience with that, not any negative experience with terrorism or
No.
Well, that's really good to hear. Because I think if you would have looked at, and I didn't go back and look at this, but because of some other work I do with refugees, I often have to look at country reports and travel reports, travel advisories to different countries, and almost always they will say something about Pakistan like "do not travel" or it's a level 3, like almost always.
Right.
So it's interesting that you due to terrorism or kidnapping or disappearances and forced disappearance, and yet you're doing work that you would expect that might anger some people. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. You're very humble, because I have not found anywhere on your website, and you haven't shared with me even in prior conversations that you founded it. I didn't even quite understand that. So how did that come to be? You talk about another gentleman who wanted to help, but how did you start this organization? What was the impetus and so forth?
Well, when we moved to northern Pakistan, to Gilgit, we connected with a Punjabi Christian pastor who wanted to share the love of Jesus with people as well as us, and so. But he was also starting a church, a Christian church in that area. And at the time, the Christians they're actually migrant workers moving up from the south and doing low-level jobs. The Christian community was oppressed. They were poor. They were illiterate, and consequently, because of their poverty, they were not sending their kids to school. So the first thing that the pastor wanted to do is he wanted to raise up the Christian community, academically, of course, spiritually, and economically. And so we said, well, our two sons and Robin and I, we said, well, we can help with that. How can we help? And he said, well, if you can help start an after-school program to teach these Christian kids, to help them with their homework, essentially, because the parents were illiterate. And he went ahead and started registering them in school for the first time ever in their history. And so he registered them in school and started them going to school. And so we helped after school with their homework and English. We also, at the same time, we were the only native English speakers in that area, working in that area, that were willing to teach. And so we opened up an education or teaching facility, teaching English. And so we opened up it quickly. Within a few months, we were able to receive a donation, and we opened up a center. We got the kids enrolled in this after-school program, and then we opened it up to the Muslim community, and we were just overwhelmed with people, with kids who wanted to attend our after-school coaching program and English teaching. And so that's where it started, is with us partnering with the pastor of I should say, the only recognized or registered church in northern Pakistan. And we're working with him, and then And then we also had another Pakistani Christian couple. They were actually teachers. And so together, after doing this for about a year, we discovered that the education system in Pakistan was lacking, it was terrible, actually. And so we realized that if we wanted to raise up the academic standards of these kids, we're going to need to start our own school. And so we did that shortly thereafter, and then we formed this organization called Shining Light Community Development Organization, which is an NGO registered in northern Pakistan.
Okay, so I first learned about you quite recently, actually, and I was just very excited to talk to you both because you're so unique and the work you're doing is so unique, and people, I bet, rarely hear about it. So I kind of wanted to amplify it because it feels very impactful. It is very impactful. It's not about a feeling. It's objectively, you've made a huge difference in the years that you've worked there. So, but I wanted to say that I met you and I heard about you through my friend Sarah Davison Tracy, who runs the Seeds of Exchange. She's known her for a few years, and also she was an early guest on this podcast. So, but she is currently raising funds or working with you to raise funds for a pretty specific program that you're running. So I want to hear about all the programs, but I just wanted to start with this Women's Sewing Center, the vocational program that you're doing with the women. Because first of all, women, I think, sorry to say more bad news, but it says, I think even on Sarah's website, that Pakistan is the third most dangerous country for women in the world. That most of the girls are not in school, and by ninth grade, only 13% of the girls are in school. So pretty dismal statistics. So if you can talk a little bit about the work that you're doing with women specifically, first of all, and with the center that we're trying to raise funds for, actually.
Yeah. Well, after we started the school, then our next challenge, I guess, was how can we help the women in Pakistan? And so we started what do we call a women's vocational training center in Gilgit, where our main headquarters is. And we have found that those have been, so valuable for the women because many of them are uneducated, and this provides them a skill and also just an involvement with other women. They come in, there's about 25 women in each class, and they come for a 9-month course, and they learn cutting and sewing and embroidery and tailoring, and also just being together as women and enjoying one another and the fellowship. And they come from all sects. We have Shias and Sunnis and Ismailis and Christian women all together in the sewing center. And it's been such an awesome opportunity to just develop socially, and also with literacy. They learn how to, read a tape measure and simple things, that we take for granted. And
health and hygiene.
Yeah, health and hygiene things. Just really community together is really important. To be in there with the women and to see them laughing and having such a good time together.
Really
and at
important.
the end of the 9 months, they receive a certificate for completion, but they also receive their own sewing machine. And
that's amazing.
The sewing machine, yes, the sewing machines are pretty simple. They cost around $150, which is not a lot to us here, but there, $150 is a lot of money. And if you had that money, you wouldn't probably buy a sewing machine with it. So this is really a useful tool for them. Even if they just sew for their own family, they tend to have large families, so this helps save money. And then some of them sew well enough that they'll sew outside the home, maybe school uniforms or wedding dresses or things like this, so that they bring in a little bit of income into their home.
Well, I feel like you're being modest, because I read, or I think it was a video of one woman I saw who said that she was literally paying for the education for her 8 younger siblings, as well as feeding her parents. You know, her parents didn't have employment, so they didn't have food. So just through this one program, she has learned to make enough money for her family to provide education and to provide food. That is life changing. Now you've got 8 more people educated.
Yeah.
That changes the whole course of history. Yeah. One person can change the course of history.
That's right. Yeah. And it seems like they're just so proud of what they do. We've gone to many graduations, and you know, when the women start the program, most of them tend to be pretty shy and quiet. You know, they have their head covering and their faces are down. But as, you know, the days go by, you know, the head coverings come off, they laugh, they have a great time together. And even at graduation, some of them will give a speech, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible anywhere. People don't like giving speeches.
Right. Yeah. And they just have this confidence now, you know, and they're in a safe place. And the sewing centers are run by women. And so even conservative families can send their women in their home, because it's a safe place where they'll be honored and protected and learn a skill.
Well, and not only that, I think the biggest, we said initially that our program brings hope for a brighter future. But through the Women's Vocational Training Center, the Women's Empowerment Program, we're also bringing dignity, you know, and respect, you know, and that's what these women value in their families. All of a sudden now they have a position, their status has changed in the family, and they have dignity and respect for the first time. And that is that's what's very empowering right there.
Yes, because that gives them the confidence to go on and learn more skills and to expand their lives. That I don't think that a person could overstate the impact that you're having. All the things that you just said, every single one of them just for themselves is a huge deal. Learning a skill, learning to make money, having dignity, having community, having confidence. And one of those things that you mentioned was that it's a safe place even for conservative women to be able to go, because I know there's a lot of schools. I've been in a lot of Palestinian areas through my work, and you know, there's a lot of times where women, just especially rural, not so much in cities or anything, but in very rural, where they can't leave the kitchen, they're not allowed to be seen by other people. I mean, and a lot of women can't get educations because of the limits that are put on them due to their religion. You know, they can't be with men unescorted and so forth. So for them to be able to go somewhere that isn't otherwise available, they would never have had that opportunity to interact. So it's absolutely almost like the more you know about the situation, the more you can appreciate the power of it. It's really it's really I'm really excited by this opportunity because
well, in fact, one of the recent villages that we were invited to go into, it's quite a remote village, but they had some flood damage last summer, and so the government asked Shining Light if we would go in and help provide some housing for these people, which has been an awesome opportunity to go in and bring hope, because not only do they need homes, but there's nothing for the women. And so we went there, I guess the first time in October to see the flood damage, and then we went in May and to talk about starting a women's sewing center, and they already had 25 women signed up on the list. And when we got to this village, all the other women in the village, which I didn't even realize there were that many women there because you don't usually see them.
Right.
They heard that we were in the village, and women came to the room where we were sitting with some of the village elders, and they were pushing into the doorway with their ID card and their 100 rupees to get their name on the list. And we ended up, I think, with at least 60 more on the list. I mean, there's just nothing for the women, and this would be the first program for them, and so they're so excited about having something for them.
Is that the photo that you sent with all the women with their eye? I was wondering. I will put that in the show notes for anybody who wants to see, because I wondered what all the excitement was about. That everybody was showing their ID, and I'm glad that you answered that. I forgot to even ask you about that. I mean, because you can see they're excited, they're happy, they're
my goodness,
all pushing each other to get in the door like it's a rock concert here, right? But they're learning to sew.
Right. And it's not that, you need 100 women sewing, but it's just something that it's an opportunity for them, and they're desperate for anything.
Yeah. Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, once you learn any skill, one skill in the world, if you have no skills and you learn one, the world is your oyster then, I can learn something. Just that I can learn something.
Right.
I thought it said also that you, and maybe I misread this, but it looked like I thought there was some literacy teaching going on at the sewing center. So this is much more than it appears.
Well, this would be another program we have.
Oh, okay.
Adult literacy. And we have found that in another remote village we went to, that the women, it was a female teacher, and the class was full of women, and they were just so, energetic and
joyous,
dynamic,
joyous.
That's a good word.
Enthusiastic. The teacher was very lively, and she's asking them, what is this letter? And they're all, reciting back to her, and just the interaction was just so fun to see, and you could just tell how much they loved learning and being together and just having that, and then they'll receive a certificate at the end of their session as well. And they learn, maybe they'll not be employed, but they will at least be able to read a medicine bottle. They'll be able to help their children with their homework. They're more likely to see that their children attend school.
Right.
So it's very exciting just to see that level, to rise up with them, and that
literacy.
Confidence. I mean, they all seem
literacy changes everything, even more than the sewing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Do they have access? I know there's limited internet in certain areas. I don't know if it's limited where you are by the government. But is there access to BBC, those types of news channels? Does anyone get news that they can read? BBC's radio, but I guess it's also print. But I'm just wondering. The reason I'm asking is because I know that there's a lot of villages around the world. I mean, this used to be the case almost everywhere, but I know in remote areas it's still the case where, because people can't read and write, they get their news from the imam or, from one person. If it's a Muslim country, Muslim village, then it would be from an imam,
right?
Maybe, or someone like that. So you get read certain news, right? You get read what somebody wants to tell you is what you're told, is what you know. Right. So once you teach someone to read, they can. I'm wondering, would they then have access to news from other parts of the world? Or interest, maybe.
It would, right. It would still be limited, I think, by the government. What you see and what you hear. Access, if they have computers, phones, they do have access to the internet. Although we have seen where the government can control social media and things like that if they don't want, or even shut down the news if something is going on that they don't want anybody to know about.
Yeah. So do you still have access through your channels to what's going on around the world? For example, like if they were to block out the news from something, would you still, through your internet?
Yeah, I was surprised, but they can do this. I mean, they will shut down Facebook if there's something going on that they want people to know.
Okay. That's pretty
An
interesting.
outside VPN, you can get in, but they wouldn't have that,
No, I see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, continuing on. So we were talking a little bit about the graduations, and because you said there were 25 women, I think, typically in a sewing class, and they each get their own machine at the end. But you've done how many over? You've been doing it for so many years now. What would be the total number of women do you think you've trained for sewing and also for literacy?
Well, for sewing, we've done dozens of classes in different villages, and the main center is at the church in Gilgit. That's our main training center. So we've graduated over 1,000 women have received certificates and their own sewing machine through that our women's empowerment program. And in terms of adult literacy, we just recently started that several years ago, but we have probably 200 women now in probably half a dozen villages at least that have received a certificate in Urdu literacy. Yeah.
Oh, so are you teaching in Urdu or in English or in both?
Urdu.
Both.
In our Shining Light Academy
At the school, it's
Gilgit,
English.
it's English medium school. But all the instruction for the women's sewing centers and the adult literacy, that's all in Urdu.
Okay.
The national language. Yeah.
So you've been so you're now though raising funds for a new center, and is that for a new permanent center in one of the villages, or where would that be?
Yes, it will be a center that we're starting in this new village that I mentioned, where the women were all crowding into the room.
Oh, good. Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
We have, this is a new opportunity for us, and something that the women seem so eager. And so we're raising, this would be for the rental of the room to do the sewing, to pay the trainer, to get 25 sewing machines. So the cost of that we're trying to raise is about $10,000.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, and just I definitely have the notes for that fundraiser on the web, on the show notes and on our website, and a number of different places where people can see that, because it seems like a small price to pay to have so many people, because that's not, is that per year? Then it would be like 10,000, or per session it would be 10,000, or is that?
It's for a 1-year program.
It is for 1 year. Oh, that's really good.
It's a 1-year program only because in the wintertime they'll take a break because it's so cold. The electricity is
very poor.
Very poor. And so people take a break in the wintertime.
So for about 3 months they're just closed down.
Kind of like summer here.
That's we'll rent a home. We'll equip it with heat and
a carpet.
Because
the women all sit on the floor to sew. So
okay. Wow.
Yeah, with a nice pad that goes. So the home is usually oftentimes it's the master trainer herself who. It's in her home, but not always. And this will pay for utilities and, of course, the teacher's salary, and also our team from Gilgit will, covers their travel expenses. We have a monitoring evaluation program that we also we monitor the success of each of these different centers or programs.
You do, yeah. That was actually the question I was going to ask you, is because you've had. Like, you must know there's a lot of tangible successes from what you've seen. It's not just putting the programs together. Then you get to look at what comes out of it.
That's right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering, how are you able to measure impact?
Well, we do have this metrics and evaluation tool that's just recent, which does ask questions and evaluate, have they benefited from having the training in the women's program? But just different testimonies we've gathered over time, and how they've been able to use their sewing skills either to bring in money, for the family or build their confidence. It's something they never thought they could do, and they had this awesome opportunity. And even husbands or fathers will be excited that, you know, a member of their family has completed this course, and they've been encouraged by what they've seen them able to do. I think one of the best testimonies I've heard, besides the Anila video of her story, but it's just the women saying that they love being able to give their children pocket money. They don't have to go and ask their husbands. They can just give it. And they seem to be so proud to be able to do that. And that makes your heart warm to know that it's such a simple thing to us, but to them, it's an achievement. Yeah.
It's that dignity that Mike mentioned earlier, I think.
Right. Yes, that's right.
I mean, it's the same here. Right. If you're not working, sometimes it's hard when other people are supporting you, and then when you can actually create some of your own income, it just changes your whole perspective of who you are. I mean, I'm encouraged to hear you say that men, both husbands and fathers, are happy by by this development, because especially as we see Afghanistan maybe going in a different direction, it's nice to see, because there's a pretty close connection between Afghanistan and Pakistan, a lot of people going back and forth, and a lot of the same influences. But do you ever see? I would think that you would, situations where men don't allow the women in their lives to attend such a thing.
Yes. Well, in the beginning, when we first started at one of the schools in a remote village, they only wanted us to educate boys. That they actually thought it was a sin to educate girls. And so we told them we would help them with the boys, and so we provided classroom furniture. We paid salaries. We
hired teachers, local teachers.
And so that probably went for about a year. You know, we did what we said that we would do. Of course, the whole time we're praying and hoping for the girls. And it was probably about a year later when the village elders came to Shining Light and said, you know, how can we be prosperous like our neighbors? And the response was, well, you have to educate your girls. And so they agreed. They said yes. So
that's huge. That's huge.
Oh, it was a huge breakthrough. I mean, we're working among a tribal group that is very remote and very marginalized, and for them to agree to this was huge. And since that time, right now we have 5 schools. Now these are out in remote villages, rural villages. We have 5 schools, probably 450 kids, and 150 of them are girls going to school for the first time ever in the history of their people.
That's
right.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask, because we're talking centuries of tradition.
Centuries.
So when you're talking about your impact, that one thing could be the biggest change ever. In fact, it's mind-boggling to me that you're able to do that you were able to convince them to let girls go to school.
Yes.
That's a complete cultural reversal.
It is. And it's, we have a great relationship with the community leaders. And so that's also been going on for a long time. And so it's exciting to think about the future for them and the girls. Yeah.
I would really encourage you, if you haven't done it yet, to consider writing a book about this, because
I can't tell you how many times people have asked us to do that.
You know why? Because it is you're creating something that is so difficult to do, and it's only because you've been there so long and built up trust, and they know you're not trying to divert the government or do anything like that. You're literally there to do what you say you're there to do, and to replicate that is not easy. Okay, well, we're getting toward the end of our time together, and I guess one question I'd like to leave you with or ask you is, what do you wish that you could share with people about this life that you've chosen? Because you've chosen a very, very unusual and impactful, unique and exciting life, but hard too. So what would you share about how it's been?
Yeah.
What would you want people to know?
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like this life chose us. I mean, when we chose Jesus and we entrusted our life to him, then this is just what we call the great adventure. I mean, it's the what we believe the task, the role that God has laid out for us, and not just Robin and I, but for our sons as well. I mean, this whole it feels like it's a custom made adventure for our entire family, and it involves all of us and involves so many others, including our new family in Pakistan. We have our family has been enlarged by hundreds,
That's right.
of the kids that we've taught over the years, of the adults that we've worked with. I mean, when we go to Pakistan, it feels like we're going home.
Yeah.
And
It's beautiful.
so we really experience the joy of the Lord more in there than anywhere else. And I think it's because we're doing what God has asked us to do.
Yeah.
And we've been blessed. Yeah.
So did you just let go of all planning and control and just say, I mean, because if you did, if that's what happened, I would, right? Well, first of all, is that what happened? Did you? I mean, not all planning, but did you just say, okay, we're going to take this leap of faith, kind of do with this what you will, and then you get to just kind of watch and see what happens? Would you go that far?
Yeah. Well, we had, we were probably 40 years old. Mike had a great job. We had the 2 boys, the dog, the house with the swimming pool, the minivan.
Interesting.
But we just felt like there was more. There's got to be more to life than this. And, I'm not sure if when I said that, if I had known we were going to Pakistan, I probably would have said, well, wait a minute. But,
right, because you wouldn't have picked it. It did pick you.
No. Right.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of slowly, stepping out and trying some different things. And,
Step by step. Yeah.
And just saying yes, really opening our arms wide and just saying yes and let's do this. And I think because of that, we've just been a part of, a great adventure, we call it. And again, it hasn't always been easy. There are many challenges and frustrations along the way, but it's been very rewarding and fulfilling. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And we feel like we've been able to see fruit for our labor, which is really fun. Yeah. A lot of people, work many, many years and never see a change, but we've been able to see that. And so that's been a real blessing. Plus our team in Pakistan is incredible.
Yep.
Our staff with Shining Light here in the States is incredible. They're able to do a lot of things like writing grants and marketing and all of that, which is so necessary for the ministry to expand and be able to do all the things we do. Yeah.
Yeah. I just thinking if you thought back about what your life would have been had you never left, you'd still be in probably that same house with the same swimming pool and that same life. And you would have missed like a whole nother life.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Sometimes I think about that and I almost have a panic attack.
Yeah.
Thinking about what if we hadn't have said yes?
Yeah.
Because all along the way, we had opportunities to say no question. There were some really tough decisions along the way.
Right.
But had we said no, I just can't imagine life.
Yeah.
And
like this.
It's so much bigger and richer what you've done.
Oh, yeah.
And,
no question.
We had lived there for 9 years. And then in 2011, after Osama bin Laden and all of that, the Pakistan government said no more visas. And so as devastating as it was, we had to leave. We didn't have a choice. But fortunately, our Pakistani team picked up and carried on, and which is what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yourself out of a job. Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
The work has grown and expanded and, and it's better for us to be here in the States so that we can promote and fundraise for the work that's going on there. And we are able to go back and visit. We just can't live there.
Oh, according to the government won't let you live there now.
Right.
Which government? Our government or their government?
No, Pakistan government.
Oh, they won't give you visas. Yeah. And where are your boys? What are they doing? Are they doing different work?
Yes.
So they got to experience it. Pardon?
They did.
Oh, yeah.
They did. They are both married and have families. Both love Pakistan, and so do their wives. And so that's been great fun. Yeah.
But they live in the U.S.?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Well, you gave them a view of life.
Yeah.
They met their wives in Pakistan.
Yeah. Their wives are.
Are they Pakistani?
No, they're American, but they
came
there. I know, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So how long do you think you'll keep doing this? Just as long, or do you even plan? Do you just let it guide you? You haven't talked about this one yet. Maybe I should.
No, well, as long as we still have breath and the Lord has work for us to do, then we're in,
we would like to be able to go to Pakistan twice a year.
Yep.
But then when we're here in the States, we work with our team here to continue promoting and raising funds and awareness for what's going on there. And I suppose we'll keep doing that until till we can, and then we'll pass it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, I can just see the joy in both your faces. It's really, I can, and between you, it's really powerful. It's very, it makes me really think about life more in a different way. And, the very first person I had on this podcast, her name is Lynn Twist. And, she talks about the power of commitment and how when you give your life fully to something, that it just takes on its own energy, and you just everything you do when you wake up in the morning is your commitment tells you what to do. And that kind of sounds like that's what you're describing. Is that, are we going to keep going? I don't know. We committed, so if our commitment has us keep going, we will.
Well, I think that's really important, because when you're in a hard place like Pakistan or so many other places in the world, things aren't going to go right. There's problem with the government, with political situations, with even basic things like water and electricity,
natural disasters, political
flooding
events, all kinds of things.
Have to know that that this is where you're supposed to be, or else it would be too easy to leave.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Have there been scary times when you just I don't think we can do this anymore, when you were living there?
There's been a lot of times of uncertainty, but not where we felt like we had to leave or gave up. Yeah.
I mean, we've been in disasters. We've been in, martial law in the city. We've gone through that. But we've never been afraid for our lives or our children's lives. So no, I guess we never thought about that. We never thought about leaving. I
guess you can let your mind go there if you want, but then you can't. You can't live in fear.
No.
Yeah. So,
Well, it all just shows up in your personalities. That's what, and I don't know if it has changed you or if that's what you brought to there and that's why it's worked for you. But as I was saying,
I don't know.
I mean, there's no way to know those things, but I can just tell you with I've had a lot of podcasts, and things do go wrong. The recording goes wrong, and I just keep looking at your adaptability to every new thing. I don't know if people watch are going to be able to see all the shifts and changes and recordings, and never once so often people would say, forget it, this is too hard, and it doesn't even enter your mind. So it's interesting to see what
this is easy.
I'm sure it's a piece of cake, but that just shows you the difference, because for Americans is a lot of times we're so spoiled that if something goes wrong, we're just well, I'm not gonna put any more effort into that. It didn't go perfectly. So and you just keep
Right.
trying. So it's just fun to see you in action, I guess, even though I know this is just nothing compared to what you usually do. Okay, well, this has really been a treat for me, I have to say, and I just wonder, how could people help you the most? If people who are watching, I'm sure, whether they're into international development, whether they're Christian, whether they want literacy, whether they care about women's rights and empowering women. There's so many things that you touch on. Yeah, how can they help the most? Is it? I mean, we'll definitely have the Seeds of Exchange fundraiser highlighted, but what if ongoing people want to help? Do you have like monthly programs, or people can?
We do.
We
contribute?
We from a financial standpoint, we have what we call a Ray of Hope Club, where people can give,
Monthly.
on a monthly basis, or
So you can
however.
go online on our website and sign up for that.
Which is shininglight.co.
Shininglight.co.
.co.
That's our website.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Not com.
Yeah, that's what mine is also, but I thought yours was org, but I don't want to confuse people.
No.
Even as I'll put it over this as we're speaking, because shininglight.co.
Those, those who are who would like to, who have faith, whatever faith, we would definitely appreciate prayers, for the work that is happening in northern Pakistan. We have lots of plans to move. We're in this village that we're doing the water, or the women's training center. We're also doing a water project, which we've never done before. We're going to be entering into healthcare, which is a huge need that people have asked. Villages have asked us to, particularly female healthcare. So we're entering into areas that we haven't tread before, and so so if any of the viewers out there have areas of expertise in these areas, we'd like to hear from you, and what you suggest. So
and the best way to reach you out to you both is through the website, through your emails are on that, are on the website. Okay, all right.
You can go through info at Shining Light.
Info at shininglight.co.
And they can also probably send a Mike or Robin, because you both have those same.
Yes.
Some people like to write to a person, so it'd be Robin at shininglight.co. And Mike, right?
Or Mike G.
Mike G.
Yeah.
Okay.
At shininglight.co.
Okay. All of that plus links to all the videos. Because I think it's really powerful to see those videos and see the women and see the faces and see the children and see them happy. And, it really adds texture to all the wonderful things that you've already said. So for anyone listening, just go look at those links and watch them all, because they're short videos, but they really tell the story beautifully. Go ahead.
Yeah. Also Facebook as well.
Follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook.
Instagram.
We update that regularly. Yes.
You guys are so hip. All right. Well, thank you so much for all your flexibility and your wonderful work that you're doing in the world. I love doing these interviews because I always leave so uplifted, but this one in particular, you just, the joy that shows on your face is really uplifting to me. So thank you for what you're doing. And, we will be in touch, and I hope people will give and support, not just for this, but going forward. And bless you. Continue with your work. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Deborah. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Bye.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.